On January 26, 2020, NBA legend and five-time champion of the LA Lakers, Kobe Bryant, died in a tragic helicopter accident in Calabasas, California. There were 8 other victims, including his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna. Now, this is not a video about reselling Kobe Bryant merchandise. There are plenty of other YouTube videos right now about that topic that you could go and watch if you're interested. Casey the Rockstar Flipper, for example, just did one that was very good. So go check out his video on that topic in which he addresses that controversy. Right now, what I really want to focus on is something that I think could have a longer term impact in your life in a very positive way. And you don't have to know anything about Kobe Bryant or basketball or sports to get something out of this video. And frankly, you don't even need to be a reseller to get something out of this video, even though reselling is in the title. As long as there's something in your life that is challenging to achieve, whether that's something that's a personal goal of yours that you have. It could be something related to athletics. It could be something outside of that. It could be something in your professional career outside of reselling. If you have another full-time job or something like that, it could be anything. And it all comes down to mentality and what Kobe Bryant had referred to as the Mamba Mentality. For those of you who don't know, Kobe Bryant nicknamed himself the Black Mamba after a fearsome, terrifying snake, because that's the type of competitor he was. He really was fearsome and terrifying. When people knew that they were going to play against Kobe Bryant, it was a special day, and they would even tell their relatives, like, I've got Kobe tonight. I've got to tune everything else out and focus on this dude, because this dude is hardcore. He is going to come at me harder than anybody else in the game right now. And when Kobe passed away, it was really sad for me, because Kobe has long been my favorite NBA basketball player, not just for the talent, and my goodness, he was so incredible, the things that he did on the court. It was absolutely amazing. But in addition to the talent that Kobe had, it was the work ethic behind that talent that made him who he is. There's very few people who are on that type of level. Michael Jordan is another one. And early on in Kobe Bryant's career, one of the ways I knew that Kobe was special was I looked at, because, I could think what I want. When he was growing up, I was still a teenager watching him. But I looked at what his colleagues thought of him. And there's one colleague who I really cared the most to pay attention to what he thought, and that was Michael Jordan. And every time I saw Michael Jordan interact with Kobe Bryant, even when Kobe first came into the league, you could tell Michael Jordan had respect for him, and that told me a lot. And Michael Jordan's, again, one of these other people that was just on another level in terms of the type of work ethic that he brought to his game and he brought to his profession, because after all, that is their profession. That's what they do for a living. And they had lots of success. Michael Jordan, he won 6 NBA championships. Kobe Bryant won 5. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, all these, they could, and there's people like this in other sports. So I focus on basketball because basketball is my main sport that, I've done a lot with in my life, both in terms of playing, in terms of coaching a little bit, and also in terms of spectating. So that's the one I know most. That's why I focus on here. But you could find, analogies to other types of players like this in other sports. For example, Tiger Woods in golf would be a good example, during his heyday. But they all brought that really hardcore, competitive spirit to the game. And when Kobe Bryant passed away, there's a lot of people that I would naturally think of that had, interactions with him and were friendly with him. Of course, there would be LeBron James. You'd be curious what LeBron would think. You might be curious what His most recent coach thought about him, what Luke Walton thought about him over at the Lakers. There's lots of people, in his life that you'd be curious about what they would think. But for me personally, there was only one person who I really cared what they had to say and wanted to see more than anybody else. And that is this guy right here, Jim Boeheim. Now, you don't have to know anything about sports. You might not even know who Jim Boeheim is. That's fine. But Jim Boeheim is a legendary coach here in Syracuse, New York, where I'm located. And, he helped bring the team to the championship in 2003. And he is a very, very hardcore competitor himself. And he was the assistant coach on the Olympic team with Coach K from Duke, who, helped bring back the Olympic gold with the NBA players. And so he coached Kobe Bryant when he was over there. And I wanted to see what Jim Boeheim had to say. So a few hours after Kobe Bryant passed away, there was an article that came up on Syracuse.com, and I shared it in my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center, and I'm going to link to it down below. I advise you to look at the whole thing. But there's one part of the article that jumped out to me that I wanted to pass on to you that I feel could really help, which is this, and I'm going to quote from it. It said, Boeheim said that Bryant arrived early and stayed late to practices. Well, that tells you something right there about hard work. A lot of people, and trust me, I know from being in a lot of different basketball arenas and basketball courts and involved with so many teams, the players who they just come right at the very end, right at the very, very last minute that you could possibly start practice, or they straggle in a little bit late. They're the same players do this all the time, and then they're the first ones to run right out of the gym to go home. So that's not someone who's putting a lot of time into their craft to get themselves better. They're doing the basics. They're just showing up for the basics. You don't want to do that. You want to separate yourself out. You want to put in extra time, put in extra work before and after. That's why a lot of you ask me, how is it that you're up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning when you have to be up early for work the next day? That's the same type of mentality. It's that Mamba mentality. And right now, I am doing this video for you at 2:15. Then I have to edit it, process it, all that stuff, and get it up hopefully by the morning and be up around 6:30ish. Okay? That's the Mamba mentality. But I want to read you the exact quote from Jim Boeheim that really, really was powerful for me. And said, but even if he didn't do any of that, so even if he didn't show up early or come late, which he did, but he's saying even if he didn't do those things, he came to practice and he worked harder than everybody there. He played every play. There was no easy time. There was no, I'm just warming up here. It's an off day. There was never an off day or an off play. That's how you have to treat your business. That's how you have to treat your career if you want to advance in it. Just go and look at all of the people in their respective professions, the ones that are at the top, the ones that have achieved the pinnacle of success. They have that same type of mentality. It's not unique to Kobe Bryant. It's rare. And Kobe had it and he exemplifies it. And it appeals a lot to me because I relate to the sport. But again, there's people in all sorts of walks of life, whether they're athletes or not, that have that same thing. And that's one of the things that Kobe Bryant was trying to teach people. He wasn't just interested in teaching people how to become a better basketball player. He would go to colleges and corporate environments and try to teach people about how to better themselves personally. That's what Kobe was about. And you also have to remember Because when someone passes away, you think of all of the great moments, all the all-star moments, the MVPs, the championship, the winning shots. And sometimes we forget that it wasn't always that easy. It wasn't always that simple. When Kobe Bryant first came into the NBA, he wasn't an instant superstar. He took his lumps, and it took time to get to the level that he eventually got to. It took years to get there. Remember, he came to the NBA right out of high school. So, I mean, it was amazing what he accomplished. Now, I mentioned Michael Jordan earlier. A lot of people, they think back of Michael Jordan, they think back to his 6 championships, and they remember all the game-winning shots and everything. But I remember back in the day being and I still am, but back in the day, a Detroit Pistons fan, when they were the bad boys, for those of you who watched that back then, they pummeled Michael Jordan. They pummeled him. They called it the Jordan rules. Chuck Daly, the coach of the Pistons, called it the Jordan rules. It was an all-out attack on Michael Jordan to totally wear his body down to the point that Michael Jordan was crumpled in a ball sometimes after games because he was just so physically beat down. And rather than give up and say, I can't take this anymore, Rick Mahorn and Bill Laimbeer and John Sally and Dennis Rodman and Joe Dumars and all these guys are just destroying me every single game. Don't get me wrong, he was having good games, but the physical toll it took on him was absolutely brutal. He didn't give up. What he did is he said, that's it, I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm hitting the gym hardcore, and I'm going to build up my body, and I'm going to come back the next season, and I'm going to overcome that obstacle. And you know what they eventually did? To my misery at the time, they swept the Detroit Pistons. And that must have been a good feeling for him. At the time, I marveled what Michael Jordan did, but he was beating my favorite team at that point, and I didn't like him too much back then. But I still obviously admired just the skill and also just the hard work and had to admire how he did overcome that obstacle. So that's just another lesson about that type of mentality. You can't just assume it's all going to be there. Many of you are going through tough times watching this video right now. Your sales are low. Maybe you're starting a YouTube channel and you can't get traction with it, even though you're working your butt off on it. Okay? You could be going through some tough times in your personal life that's messing up your business. Maybe your car broke down. Maybe you have a medical problem, something going on in your family, something going on with a relative. There's all sorts of things that could be happening to you, but you've got to fall back on that Mamba mentality, that hard work, that motivation, that never giving up, never letting yourself be in a situation where it's an off play. You got to show up early. You got to stay late as much as you possibly can do it. That's what you have to do. So I really hope that just passing this on and passing on that quote from Jim Boeheim might be inspirational to some people, because it's been inspirational to me. Whenever a Kobe Bryant interview came on, I always paid attention to it, whether it was on the radio, whether it was something on YouTube. Go on YouTube. Watch Kobe Bryant interviews. I'm telling you, you will be blown away. You don't even have to like anything about sports. And Kobe, he would not tolerate, and this is one of the things that made him a little controversial, he's somewhat of a loner. He would not tolerate if other people around him did not work to his same level of mentality. So this is why he sometimes had disputes with Shaquille O'Neal, because if Shaquille O'Neal wasn't bringing it and working hard, well, that was affecting the team, and Kobe let him know that. So if you have employees, if you have other people working for you and stuff, and people around you who might be bringing you down, you've got to try to use that Mamba mentality in a role model type of sense, and try to get them to follow your lead and let them know, show them, lead by example. It's one of the other things Jim Boeheim talks about in that article. He let the other players know what it took by leading by example. I'm going to leave this off with one last story. And you don't have to know anything about basketball to follow this, but Jay Williams, who used to play for Duke, he played 1 year in the NBA. He was getting ready to go play against Kobe Bryant. So he shows up to the gym, to the arena, I should say. And he decides to get there early because he knows he's playing against Kobe. And he gets there, and Kobe Bryant's there. And Kobe Bryant's shooting around. So Jay Williams does his whole routine, pretty intense workout, goes back into the locker room, comes back out for the game. Then after the game, he sees Kobe Bryant is still there and still doing some workout. And Jay Williams comes up to him and he says, Kobe. He's like, why? Why are you here this long? Why are you doing this? And Kobe said to him, I saw you come into the arena and I saw that you were working hard and I knew you were getting ready to go against me. And I wanted to let you know that you were not going to outwork me. And so that is another good lesson to bring into your reselling business, because you do have competition, you do have competitors, and that type of mentality can help kind of psych you up and help pump you up to go out there and be competitive and go out there, go get it, go grab it, have that Mamba mentality. I hope this video helps all of you out. Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, Black Mamba.